acid stimulation that's going on in the...
It's a fracking. It's frack. An acid frack... well, it's not easy. It's an acid frack. Sorry, I immediately dropped into our terminology there. It's an acid frack. Period.
So what they're doing in Balcombe now is already fracking.
It's fracking, yes. Yeah.
What we understand.
Yeah. You can do it at lower pressure, but it's an acid frack. They'll call it acid etching, or they'll use any terminology to try and obfuscate what's really going on.
And they use perf guns in that?
Well, of course they use a perf gun because they've got to open the well. Yeah. But by the way, just I'll touch on the perf gun. There's been some debate about the use of depleted uranium in perforation guns. Halliburton have certainly deployed that process in the US. I doubt very much they've done it here, but it's certainly the question worth asking. I mean, although I think some 40 odd years ago there was some discussion about using depleted uranium in well collars, in the collars on the drills. But as far as I'm aware, it's never actually been put into practice. That was an academic exercise. But so the first time that depleted uranium has been used in the process is in the perforation. And what it does is it actually kickstarts the frack. But it's certainly a question worth asking in this country, you know, as the perforation process, does it include depleted uranium?
But for people who didn't hear his question, we'll just clarify so people know that that acid frack is already happening in Balcombe. People who think it's still just drilling.
Well, if they dropped acid, if they pumped acid, then it's a frack.
They can't hear what I'm saying.
But they would, I mean, they would, anyway, the detail, but they would need more than one pump truck to do that. They would definitely need more than one pump truck. They probably need half a dozen pump trucks, so you'd know if the pump trucks went on site. But it's a question worth asking, for sure. I mean, you know, one of the things that we have to keep on doing is demonstrating that the industry is being less than transparent. So just keep asking the questions and demanding the answers. Or get the local council, or get the EA, or any other agency. Just keep asking the questions. Because the more that we can demonstrate that the industry is not transparent, obviously, we know they've got something to hide. Period. This is from Quadrilla's own documentation, what the Fylde Peninsula will look like if they are able to get the process to the point where they're moving towards production. Each of these pads, you know, this is the infrastructure, the M6, the M55, each of these pads will require something like 3,000 truck movements just to get the pad to the point of production. It's an obscenity. And this is mainly agricultural. Okay, you've got Blackpool, you've got St Anne's, but the area on the Fylde Peninsula here is ostensibly agricultural. And so some of the loudest voices in there are the dairy farmers now. I mean, I'd have to say that the farming, the farming community has been very, very quiet on this issue to date. Surprisingly so. In Germany, one of the loudest voices are the beer producers. Because German beers contribute such a significant amount to the economy, particularly in terms of exports. And the German beer producers have made the point that the key element of their quality beers is the quality of the water.
And the vineyards in France.
The vineyards in France, yeah. So, with our frack, we've got the issue of the cross-geological contamination, we've got the issue of the water usage, then we've got the issue of the loss, because 50% of what is pumped down the hole is lost. God knows where. And it's on a mission. Because it's aggressive, it's designed to be aggressive, and it'll just keep on going. It's like a bloody Duracell battery. It's just going to keep on going. And the unfortunate thing about the frack fluid is, unless there's half-life material in there, it's literally just going to keep on going. It's going to keep seeking the path of least resistance. And if it can't find one, it'll create one. Then we've got the problem of the half that is recovered. The flowback, or produced water. When I asked the Chief Executive Officer of Quadrilla back in February what the plan was with the produced water, this was how he responded. We're working on that one. I said, sorry? He said, we're working on it. This is Francis Egan. And I said, come on, I said, this is a core piece of the process, and you haven't got a solution. I said, what happened to the produced water from the frack you did in 2011? He said, I wasn't with the company then.
We know what happened to it.
Yeah, we know what happened to it. And interestingly, the company, the Manchester-based company that supposedly did the treatment of the produced water, they, without any third-party oversight, they treated it and then pumped it into the Manchester Ship Canal. But what is really interesting is that that company has declined tender for any future business associated with hydraulic fracturing. Now I'm told by a representative of that particular company that the stresses that the the treatment of frac fluid, the stresses that it puts on their hardware is phenomenal, and it's just not a viable proposition for them. So when I pushed Francis Egan as to what the plan was with this flowback produced water, bear in mind this is going to be something in the region of 1 million gallons plus. When I say plus, it's plus the debris. It's plus the debris that's been created from the frac process. That debris will quite probably be radioactive as well. Another issue with it. Anyway, so Francis Egan said, well, actually, in the short term, we're going to store it in double-skin tanks. Well, that's a lot of double-skin tanks. You know what they're going to do? They're going to be buying up, sort of renting forest land. They're going to be cutting a clearing so that nobody can see it, and then trying to stick this produced water, this flowback, in these clearings, in double-skin tanks in these clearings, until they come up with a plan as to what to do with it. In Australia, they're spraying it on the roads. They're literally getting these tankers and going into the middle of nowhere, what they think is in the middle of nowhere, and just opening the cock at the back of the tank and letting it spray out on these dirt roads. This is not even in the outback. Yeah, this is in the foothills, about 30-40 kilometres inland from the east coast. In Australia, of course, they haven't got the regulation. The industry's out of control, as you're going to see in a little while. We have to make sure that it never even gets to this stage here.
Sorry, is it true that Quadrilla never drilled before? They're a big company.
Oh, all of these companies, these are cowboy companies. They don't have the expertise, and I have to tell you that the people they've hired are not exactly the best and the brightest in the industry. And let me tell you that the people on their management team have never operated at this level in an organisation before. I know that, because I spoke to them. You know? I mean, their engineering manager is ex-Baker, and he was so far down the food chain. I mean, I don't think the guy was much more than probably a frac master, you know, in Baker. But what do you expect? You know, they haven't got any money. You know, they've just released their accounts, and they're 13 million in the hole on revenues of not even $500,000. And most of the money is coming from John Brown's Riverstone private equity company, funding company. So look at the issues that we've got. The water usage, the flowback water, the disposal of the flowback water, the loss of frac fluid in the geology. But you know what, we don't even need to engage people in much more detail than this, because the water issue should be sufficient to stop this in this country. You know, we're in drought officially in the southeast of England right now, and we can't afford to be losing 100 million gallons of water per square mile to the system. Quadrilla have apparently entered into an arrangement with Essex Water for the supply of water here, and you know, this is what they're going to do. They're going to negotiate with other water authorities. By the way, of course, when Cameron said that, you know, as far as we're aware, there's never been an issue with contamination, we know that is it Southern Water? Southern Water flagged the risk of contamination up with the Environment Agency over a year ago, and we're told, no, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to know about that. So we know that Southern Water raised the issue with the Environment Agency, and somewhere between the Environment Agency and David Cameron, it was all shut down. What we're dealing with here is literally Quadzilla. It's an absolute monster. Let me just show you Pennsylvania, because you see a lot about Pennsylvania.